All right, so welcome guys. So this is a side-by-side video of the current versus previous generation NX. You know, I thought it's a good opportunity to film this since we have both the cars here. They're also spec'd the same way, they have the same color, we have the F Sport package on both. I have to say, different designs bring different feedbacks. Personal preference, I'm gonna have to go with the newer generation. I really love what they did here, as I mentioned in the previous video, but I'm gonna go over some of the things that are really influenced my choice. So let's start with the grid. Talk about Lexus models, we immediately think of the grids. I just like that for the first time Lexus went with a smaller, more compact grille here compared to the previous generation. It's not much, but you do see that on the previous gen it was slightly wider. The next thing I need to mention is also the placement of the LED signature. Now that thing that you see here, it just looks like Lexus striked a sponsorship deal with Nike, and they just put that on every single car. The IS, the RC, the pre-facelift LS, on an acceptable case on the LC as well. It's just, I don't know, I personally prefer what they did here. It's just the integration of the LED with the main headlight. It just gives it a cleaner look, keeps the bumper clean, no interruption. Another thing that they also added is the obviously the air intakes if you want, but they're fake on both cases, so they're bigger on the newer generation, and it is to be expected. You know, you get sportier. Everyone is going with a trend like this right now where it's just more aggressive, sportier, so it's to be expected. One thing that they should have kept in the newer generation is the, I don't know if you can see it, but there is this bronze, dark bronze texture. It's really beautiful, and I just wish they kept that versus going with the classic piano black that everyone goes with. It contrasts really well, but that was a nice touch that Lexus had. So this is for the front of the vehicle, and I think they did a pretty good job here. All right, so moving into the side view of the vehicle, and usually with this profile view, that's where you get the main lines of the car. Now we can see a couple of interesting things here with the previous generation. The first thing I notice is how that line is acting as an extension of the tail lights, and that's a really nice touch. Also, the bottom line passing through the doors brings some angles out. Notice how the wheel arch does not it does not blend, it actually contrasts with the color of the vehicle. Just gives it a cheap plasticky feel. I get it that it's very good for rust and protection overall, but it doesn't hurt to have it body color just like on the new generation. So here with the new generations, the line are more discreet. When you look at the bottom, you do have that line just there as a reminder, but it's not as pronounced as it would be on the previous generation. And also we are missing that line towards the tail lights. One thing that I have to say about the NX though, either you're going with previous generation or current generation, the NX has that coupe line, or coupe feel I should say, that you find with the Q5. It's very discreet, but it's there, you know, it is there. The rear, just tell me, how can you miss that beautiful LED signature? I mean, just a beautiful touch added by Lexus. Like I mentioned before, this is going to be part of the upcoming design language for the future lineup of Lexus, of course. And just take a look at both the cars. Now, the previous generation is also an F Sport, but just notice how it's lacking a little bit of excitement. It's kind of flat. Take a look at the newer generation and see that combination of that LED signature alongside the air vents, and it's not much, it's a fair air vents on the side, but it just adds, just makes it look like it's a wider angle. Diffuser, this one has a diffuser, and it also, they added this splitter if you want in silver. It's a nice contrasting touch here compared to the previous generation where it's a little bit flat. It's just, you wish, mind you, I wish they kept the exhaust tips here, but that's not a problem. So that's the rear of the vehicle. You can see the angles, you can see how the newer generation is just a beautiful combination overall. All right, guys, so moving into the interior of the vehicle, and this is where you're going to be spending most of your time. And I have to say, the previous generation has an interesting particular design, to say the least. The previous gen comes with this choice to have a double deck center console, which also acts as a separation between the driver and the passenger. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think, matter of fact, there are some pros to that. You can see some of the controls for the AC, very simple to use, and it's a very good placement. You don't have to look down. You don't want to do that while you're driving, right? Also, I like the choice of an analogic watch. It's always an elegant touch. It's a nice, elegant touch to have. Doesn't hurt. However, you can see some of the, the edges of the center console comes with this brushed aluminum texture, and they're purely decorative. I'm not really sure. I think it's a little bit outdated, personally, if you were to ask me. And also, the worst thing in this interior is the touchpad. Now, the touchpad, you're going to ask a lot of people, and a lot of people are not fan of that. That control that you see over there, very famous. So, thankfully, Lexus listened to its clients and listened to the fans and decided to fix that with the newer generation. All right, guys, so let's take a closer look at the interior of the new generation NX. And this is what I mean when I say Lexus addressed some of the issues. This is really as good as it gets. They actually replaced that touchpad and the double deck center console that you saw in the previous generation with this new 40-inch display unit that is just very advanced. It's just very responsive. The resolution is really good. The AI is also very impressive with this. You also have a clear placement for your wireless charger. Not only that, but you also have wireless compatibility with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. In addition to that, we can also see the combination and the styling of the steering wheel. Also a very light appearance compared to the previous generation, which I like. And you look at the entire package, so the lines, the styling in itself, some of the touches that come around the vehicle, all of that is really in harmony with the vehicle, and I just scored this interior. I'll give it like a solid 8 out of 10 for the build quality and the overall representation by Lexus.